I'd like to call this meeting of the Wilson County Board of Education for September 16th, 2024 in order. Please note that the meeting is being televised on Spectrum and Green Light Channels 22 and live streamed through the Wilson County Schools YouTube channel. The public can also view the meeting by downloading the Wilson County Schools TV 22 app and through links on the Wilson County Schools Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages and the Wilson County Schools website. Members of the board, what is your pleasure in regard to the approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting?
Madam Chair,
Mrs. Powell,
I move that we approve the agenda for the meeting of the September 16th, 2024 Wilson County Board of Education.
it's been moved by Mrs. Powell, seconded by both Mr. Breen and Mr. Mercer, that we approve the agenda for tonight's meeting of the Board of Education for September 16th, 2024. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by the sign of aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. Mr. Boykin, if you would please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, to be followed by a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda calls for the approval of the minutes. We have minutes of August 19th, 2024, a regular board meeting, and August the 29th, a special board meeting. What is your pleasure?
Madam Chair,
Mrs. Barnes?
I move that we approve the Wilson County Board of Education minutes of August 19, 2024, and the special meeting also on August the 29th, 2024.
It has been moved by Mrs. Barnes, seconded by Mr. Boykin, that the minutes of August 19th, 2024, a regular board meeting, and August the 29th, 2024, a special board meeting be approved. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by the sign of aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. Mr. Boykin, if you would please assist Dr. Mills in the good news presentations.
Board members, audience members, got two recognitions tonight for our good news. And the first is our NCAT scholarship recipients. And if I could have the following individuals to come on down, Renee Bunn, Megan Proctor, and Rosalind Waddell. And you need to stay up front, don't run. Hey, y'all. And let me tell you why we're recognizing these folks. Tonight, we want to celebrate three of our educators who are recipients of scholarships through the North Carolina Center for the Advancement of Teaching, or NCAT. The educators are Rock Ridge Elementary second grade teacher, Miss Renee Bunn, Lee Woodard Elementary Media Coordinator, Megan Proctor, and Vic Elementary, this is a long one, multi-classroom leader for kindergarten and first grade, Rosalind Waddell. Through the scholarship, all three of them have been awarded a 5-day seminar at one of the NCAT campuses at either Ocracoke or Cullowhee. The total value of the scholarship, which includes the session, food, lodging, travel, substitute teacher coverage, and a $250 stipend for classroom use, is approximately $2,400. That's nice. Ms. Bunn was selected as the Noma, Henderson, Leonard, and Elsie Brame Hunt Honored Educator Scholarship recipient. Governor Hunt and his wife Carolyn established the scholarship in honor of their mothers, who were both teachers. Each year, educators from Wilson County Schools can apply for the scholarship. Ms. Bunn is planning to attend an NCAT seminar during the spring semester. Ms. Proctor was selected as John F. and Emmy Swindell Hennett Honored Educator Scholarship recipient. The scholarship was created through an endowment by Emmy and John Hennett, who are both lifelong educators, avid NCAT alumni, and retired Wilson County Schools teachers. They established a scholarship to honor their dedication and commitment to the teaching profession and their passion for learning. Each year, one of our Wilson County Schools teachers is eligible to receive this scholarship. Ms. Waddell has been selected as the Mabel Robertson McIntyre Honored Educator Scholarship recipient. The scholarship's namesake was a former teacher in Nash County. She permanently endowed the scholarship to an NCAT. Each year, a teacher from either Nash or Wilson receives the scholarship. Obviously, we got it this year. Ms. Waddell has registered to attend the seminar titled Student-Centered Instructional Coaching K-12 in October at the Ocracoke campus. We're excited for each of you to attend an NCAT seminar. We're actually very jealous. And you're all very deserving of these honors. So I would like to recognize the NCAT Board of Trustees member David Ferris, who is attending the meeting tonight. And he would like to give remarks. And Brock Womble is here as well, and then take photos with each of you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is like the Ginsu commercial at Christmas, but wait, there's more. First of all, I'm really pleased to be here tonight. I'm a product of the Wilson County education system. I graduated from Fike High School too long ago to even think about. But more importantly, my late mother, Katie Ferris, taught in the Wilson school system for over 40 years, primarily in biology. And my family has a law firm about 100 yards from here. So anyway, this is very special, but we're so proud of each one of you and so grateful, and you're going to have a wonderful experience. I'm honored to be a trustee, but more importantly, before I became attached to NCAT, I went there for a week and went through exactly what you're going to go through. And it was wonderful. It's a great experience. It's a life-changing experience. So we're very proud of you. But right now, we have another certificate and a gift to go along with it. So, Megan, I'm not going to go over all of this because it's very similar to what you just heard. So anyway, thank you. And again, congratulations. Our next one is Renee. And Renee, I spoke earlier to all three of you. Again, congratulations. And I can promise you, y'all gonna have a wonderful experience. Last but not least, Rosalind, this is for you. And I may bump into y'all. I have to go down to Ocracoke a lot. I was supposed to be there this past weekend, but heck with it. But anyway, again, congratulations. And thank y'all for all of y'all do for education. We've got a lot going on in what we refer to as the Tri-County area, Wilson, Nash, and Edgecombe with industry. And what you do sometimes may seem like a thankless job, but you're getting that pipeline loaded with some really good talent, and they couldn't do it without you and the support of your board. So our very best wishes. Thank you. Good luck. God bless. Absolutely. Absolutely. Time I get a little bunch of good looking women.
Just as a side note, our attorney wanted to point out from a legal perspective, you have to come back from NCAT. So just, I always like to throw that in, but
Sometimes those ferries,
they run slow, don't they? They run slow.
yeah, and then there's a lot of traffic around the toll.
I would take the long way back myself.
Exactly.
Thank you, David and Brock. Board members, audience members, our next presentation for Good News Award is to celebrate some folks about our Operation Backpack presenting sponsors. So our 13th annual Wilson County Schools Operation Backpack Drive was recently ended, and the backpacks have all been sent to our schools. But tonight we want to recognize some folks who've been involved with it, and they're our top 3 sponsors of the initiative. And there's some names we've seen a lot over the years, but please come forward when I call your name. From Chick-fil-A of Wilson, owner and operator Christy Proctor and Executive Director of Engagement Tracy Wellington. Okay. From Fresenius Kabi, Senior Training Specialist in the HR Training and Development Department, Shaquana Little Reeves, and Buyer and Inventory Planner for the Logistics Department, Kenya Silver. And you have to stay up for a little bit too. Don't try and run. From Hubert Vester Auto Group, Chief Operating Officer Chris Vester. So these organizations were in the level of presenting sponsor for the drive, which means that they have given more than $5,000 or more than 200 backpacks. Chick-fil-A of Wilson raised $14,364 through their corresponding Bucks for Backpacks events. That's massive. And if I get this name wrong, you'll correct me. So, but Fresenius Kabi, are you right? Oh, thank you. Donated 200 backpacks that they delivered to Barnes Elementary. And Hubert Vester Auto Group donated 1,000 backpacks that were divided among Darden Middle, Hearn Elementary, and Vic Elementary. Chick-fil-A and Hubert Vester Auto Group have been supporters since the first year of the drive in 2012. And when Fresenius Kabi first opened in Wilson in 2016, they jumped at the chance to support the drive. So each of you have grown your support over the years, and we appreciate it, and our students benefit, and it is amazing. We've had more than 100 donors this year, ranging from individuals, businesses, and organizations. And so, again, our goal of 3,000 backpacks has been met. But we wanted to personally thank you and recognize you for the extra effort that you put into it and the work that your organizations have committed to that on behalf of our students. So we know there's no way that we can't thank you enough for all that you do, and it is the extra bit that does mean a lot for our students in our system. So those backpacks and school supplies help our students start the year off on the right foot with the tools they need. And we wanted to say thank you and recognize you for all the work and commitment to Wilson County Schools and our students. So thank you. Thank you. Don't be lowered in, Tracy. You know better.
You see that look she gave you?
I love you, Tracy. I didn't call you short. I called the other people taller.
Madam Chair, that's the last time
It is always so good to have the good news that's shared. And when we break for the summer and there's limited participation, it's always good to have it begin back again once school starts. Next is on the agenda is the chairman's report, fairly brief this evening. First, we welcome back officially all of our students, teachers, administrators, and staff for the 2024-2025 school year. And as we approach our 20th day to determine our student count, we look forward to a successful year for one and for all. And with the start of this year, and they've mostly gone our top ones, We extend our thanks to our community partners, our businesses, and the individuals who contributed funds, backpacks, and supplies to help ensure our students were able to start the year well-equipped with the necessary tools of school. And lastly, we recognize that this is National Hispanic Heritage Month. It started yesterday, and it runs through the 15th of October. And that concludes the chairman's report for today, and I turn it over to Dr. Mills for the superintendent's report.
Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Fitz shared again, you know, we've obviously started school back since our last meeting, and hit the ground running with all kinds of challenges, as we've talked about at Springfield, but the school year has gotten off to a good start. But one thing that I did want to share with you tonight in my report is that the state has released accountability results for the 23-24 school year, and so we're very excited to be able to share those results with you tonight. And Scott Sage, our Executive Director of Accountability, has prepared a summary presentation for you, and I've asked that he walk us through the highlights of them. I will tell you that they are excellent, and I would like for him to just take a few minutes to go through the highlights and be able to answer any questions for you.
Good evening, members of the board and community members. My name is Scott Sage. I'm the Executive Director of Accountability and Testing. And I'll say up front, I know that test results aren't everything, but this is our one time a year that I get to come and talk to you about it. So it's my pleasure to do so. So let's begin. Turned it on first, right, Linda? There we go. Okay. So Wilson County Schools increased our overall grade level proficiency by 0.9% or 0.9%, from 55.2 to 56.1. Our two-year increase of 6.3% is the 14th highest gain in the state. For context, the state of North Carolina grew 0.6% this year, so we did outgrow the state of North Carolina. As a result of doing that, we moved up again in our state ranking of all 115 school districts. We are now at 37th, which is our highest state ranking ever. That officially puts us in the top third of the state in terms of school performance. Our 2024 GLP is only 3.8% away from a top 20 ranking. We did add 673 proficient scores during our summer testing. And I'm proud to report that our cohort graduation rate is 80.4%, and that puts us at 2 years in a row above 80%. Just a note about our graduates, we do have 45.7% of our grads earning at least one college credit, and that's an all-time high for any graduating class. And in addition, 12.5% of our grads passed at least one AP exam, which is also an all-time high. I'm going to leave it on this slide a little bit so this can sink in for you and talk you through a little bit about what's going on here. In 2016, the data point farthest to the left, Wilson County Schools ranked 90th out of 115 school districts. And since that time, you can see that we have increased our standing in terms of our state ranking, 2017, 2018, all the way up to 2024. And did want to point out one oddity there, that was 2021. That was our year that most of our students were in remote instruction. And that is also the year that all of North Carolina performance did fall. But we fell much more than the state average. And what that says is when we were unable to get students in front of our Wilson County schools teachers for the entire year, that is why we experienced more of a decline than the state in general. But look what happened in 2022 when we got our students and our teachers back together. We picked up right where we left off and then continued that upward trend into 2023 and 2024. And the magic happens when our students are sitting in front of Wilson County Schools teachers. And I did specifically choose the word magic because good stuff is going on in Wilson. We get more in 180 days than the average North Carolina schools. And that's why we're passing so many districts in North Carolina. And there's no better place for a student to be in North Carolina than Wilson County Schools. Elaborate on that a little bit further. This may be a little difficult to see, especially if you're in the back, but these are the 44 districts that are performing higher than the state average, higher than the state of North Carolina. And in yellow there is Wilson County, and we're at number 37, and being in the top third is rare air. We've been used to some big gains. We've had 10-point gains and 6-point gains, and so it might be easy for someone to look at our gain this year and say 0.9%. It's my job to give you some context and help you understand just how good that really is, okay? Because when you get to the top of the heap, little gains are big news, right? If you look at the top district, Chapel Hill, Carrboro, they went down 1.3% from last year. Camden County went down, Carteret County, Ashe County, these districts in the top 10, they went down. And so going up 0.9%, which was higher than the state average of 0.6%, is why we continue to climb and pass districts in performance. And if you look just how close we are, Mooresville City in gray there is number 20. We're just 3.8% away from being top 20 in the state of North Carolina. If you want to look a little further up the list there at Moore County, number 10, we're just 6.3% away from being a top 10 school in North Carolina. So that's why I say little gains are big news. Our accountability highlights by subject. Our reading EOG was down 0.1%. Science EOGs were down 0.3%, and biology was down 0.9%. Where we had the biggest gains was math, up 1.6. Our high school English 2 went up 2%. Math 1 up 1.3%. And the next one is not a typo. Math 3 up 10.1%. That's mostly juniors, some sophomores, some seniors, but that's our high school Math 3 was up 10%. So as a result, 17 out of 25 schools did increase their overall proficiency. 12 out of 13 elementary schools met or exceeded growth. Every high school met or exceeded growth. And 19 of 24 schools met or exceeded the EVOS growth, with 4 schools exceeding. So this one here on the top is a ranking in terms of school performance. I get all the school performance grades of 2,597 schools in North Carolina that have a school performance grade. And if you look there at the top is Wilson Early College Academy coming in at number 52 out of almost 2,600 schools. That puts them in the top 2% in terms of performance. And when you add Wilson Academy of Applied Technology, Rock Ridge Elementary, Lucama Elementary, and New Hope Elementary, they're all in the top 10% in terms of performance, and then Gardner's Elementary is in the top 20% in terms of performance. The next part there is on school growth, and this is my favorite thing to talk about. There were 2,532 schools in North Carolina that got a growth score. And if you see Wilson Early College Academy, although we've listed them as a top 10%, they're actually in the top 3% of all the schools in North Carolina in terms of getting growth. Rock Ridge Elementary, Lee Woodard Elementary were in the top 20%. And then we've got a whole slew of schools that were in the top half. Wilson Academy of Applied Technology, Forest Hills Middle, Gardner's Elementary, Lucama Elementary, Frederick Douglass Elementary, Hunt High School, Bedingfield High School, Vincent Bynum Elementary, New Hope Elementary, Vick Elementary, and Stantonsburg Elementary. I love growth. This is the reason why we're moving up in the state rankings. So, what is growth? I'm glad you asked. Teachers get a list of students on day one, and they get 180 days to do something magical. Teachers have no control over the student's past, over how they come to them on day one, all they get, all they're blessed with is those 180 days. So to give you an analogy, imagine you're a doctor in Wilson and you get a brand-new patient. Perhaps they just moved to the area and they've got type 2 diabetes. They're overweight, their sugars are high, and their A1C score is a 12. And so as a result, the doctor meets with their new patient, recommends some lifestyle changes, perhaps gives some prescriptions, and follows up with their patient regularly. And then a year later, we come to find out that the patient has lost weight, their sugars have improved, and their A1C has dropped from a 12 to an 8. Now, we would thank that doctor for doing a great job with their patient, right? We wouldn't say, well, your A1C is an 8, you're still diabetic. We wouldn't say that the doctor failed that patient. We would say that the doctor greatly improved the health of that patient as a result of their work. And so just like we would say thank you to that doctor, I would like to personally say thank you to all of our Wilson County Schools teachers for the work that they do in growing their students, okay? We get transfers in all the time. As a matter of fact, I just got a text today to find out that we've accepted 54 brand-new students to America, not to Wilson County Schools, to America. So we've got 54 students in the first 15 days that are just coming to our country to become students. So just like in the example with the doctor, we get new patients too. Our teachers have zero control over their past. But what we can say and what we can commit to do, those 54 students are going to grow just like every other student in Wilson County Schools. And so, again, I would just like to say thank you to our teachers. I know how tremendously hard they work. I know there's members in the audience. I know there's people that are watching online. You all know teachers. And I just want to encourage you to find a teacher and say thank you for the tremendously hard job that they do in Wilson County. Some more highlights. Wilson Early College has maintained their school performance grade of an A since the inception of the grading system in 2013-14. Rock Ridge, Watt, and Weka maintain their performance grade of an A, and Gardner's, Lucama, and New Hope are close to an A. Our schools that earned a B, Gardner's, Lucama, and New Hope. I got to pause here to tell you about 4 of the toughest calls I had this summer. I had to call principals to let them know how close they were to meeting their goal. Lucama Elementary was 3 test scores away from being an A school. Literally, if you take 1 science, 1 reading, 1 math score, flip it from not proficient to proficient, just like that, Lucama's an A. We have 9 schools that are close to the cutoff score for a B. Douglas Elementary, 2 scores away from a B. Lee Woodard Elementary, 6 scores away from a B. Springfield Middle School, 3 scores away from a B. We are so close for those schools, and it just hurt me to have to call them to tell them they missed it by that much. Our ACT average composite score is over 17. Our AP exam rate is 54.7. We did drop a little bit since last year. However, we did increase our participation in AP exams. That's why more of our graduates are earning AP credit. We have 16 graduates who earned the AP capstone diploma, and 88 students across the district earned awards for their performance on advanced placement testing. We had 4 seniors who completed and earned the IB diploma, and overall 25 of 35 IB exams, which is 71.4%, had passing scores. This slide is a little busy, but you can see on the right in the green, those are the 17 schools I referenced earlier that have higher performance this year than they did last year. However, you do got to point out when you've got schools like Gardner's and New Hope in the high 70s and the 80s, again, they're in the top third. These are schools that would have been higher than even the highest performing district in our state. So again, little gains are big news. We're extremely proud of that, 0.9%. The next is our overall EOG and EOC results. The black line there shows how North Carolina is performing. The blue or purple line there is how we did before summer testing, and the orange is after summer testing. So districts across the state participate in summer testing, and they've got varied summer programs, but we don't get to see the North Carolina rate before summer testing. So I can only give you their all-in total. So if you look in reading in 2022-23, last year, that was the first year that we passed North Carolina. And you can see that even though we went down 0.1, the state went down 0.1. We were still ahead in North Carolina in 3rd through 8th grade reading. Next is math. We gained 1.6% in math. The state gained 1.6% in math. But again, we had passed the state average last year, so we've maintained that margin over the state in terms of math proficiency. 5th and 8th grade science. Although we went down 0.3% and the state went up 0.3%, we're still ahead of the state in terms of our science performance grades 5 and 8. So this is our EOG all subjects, grades 3 through 8. So again, last year we passed the state, and this year we grew 0.5%. The state grew 0.7% in EOG, but we're still ahead of the state average for EOG all subjects. Okay. Our high school EOCs. Perhaps you remember earlier when I told you that all of our high schools met or exceeded growth. Well, guess what? This is the first year that we passed North Carolina in our high school EOC testing. We gained 2.9%. The state gained 0.5%. Again, little gains, big deal. So we did pass the state this year for our high school EOCs. And finally, that brings us to our final overall, all of our EOGs and EOCs, where we grew 0.9 and the state grew 0.6. That gave us a little bit more of a margin in terms of outperforming the state overall. Okay. Slides 16 through 40 is going to be very detailed. It's going to be school. It's going to be grade level. I'm going to walk you through the first slide, which is 3rd grade reading. And then, if it's the board pleasure, I'm going to go through these slides rather quickly and then get on to something else because it's really detailed in terms of try to cover in a meeting. So, for example, this is 3rd grade reading. And we've got all 13 elementary schools listed, and you can see their historical data going back to 2017-18. And at the far right is the district score. And you can see that the district in 3rd grade reading is up slightly. That's the green bar there at the right. And all the rest of the slides are going to be similar to this one. Okay, so if you guys are good, I'm going to go through these. Okay. And get to cohort grad rate, which should be slide 40 or 41. Okay. Our cohort grad rate for the second year in a row is above 80%. Just for context, so that everyone knows cohort grad rate. The minute a student steps foot in a high school, they're in the cohort. And from that day on, they have 4 years to graduate. That's what the cohort grad rate means. These are the percent of students that are graduating in 4 years. We do have students that come back for an additional semester. We do have students that come back for an additional year and graduate. But this is the one that we're accountable to you all and the public for, is our 4-year cohort grad rate. And you can see that we're getting close. Our goal is still to get to the state rate of 86.9. This is our cohort grad rate by subgroups. Our biggest subgroups are Black, Hispanic, and White. That is about 98% of our population. And so there it is for those three subgroups. EDS is economically disadvantaged. About 65% of our students qualify for free and reduced lunch. So that is how our students who are economically disadvantaged are performing over time in terms of grad rate. SWD is students with disabilities. And then the far right is another, the district again. Read to Achieve. We're accountable to the state and to you all for our third grade reading performance. I know this is a busy slide as well. The initial hurdle to get over is our third grade EOG reading or the beginning of grade 3 reading. Anytime a student passes either one of those two assessments, that counts. That's the initial, how'd we do? And then next, we look at how many of our students passed an approved alternate assessment. These are approved by the state or had a good cause exemption. And so that's where you get to the 79.1%. The 79.1% of our students met the requirements for Read to Achieve before summer school even happened. So 112 of those 147 students attended summer reading camp, and we had 48 more that passed in summer reading camp. So when you add in those 48 students, that gives us to a grand total of 85.9% satisfy the requirements of Read to Achieve. Of the 99 students that didn't, 35 were outright retained in third grade, and 64 were placed in fourth grade. But they have a reading retain label, which gives them some special monitoring. We follow up. They get uninterrupted reading instruction. They get interventions, and we follow up with them on a regular basis in terms of screening to see, are they improving in their reading progress? And so you can see over time, from 2019 to this year, 2024, how we've done in terms of the Read to Achieve proficiency. Our reading M class, this is what our kindergarten, first, second, and third graders do. That's our proficiency rates on M class. And then math, we have the state math exam for K through 2. This is how our K through 2 students are doing on math. In 2021, we participated in a pilot, and the data there was just not comparable. Kindergarten. EVOS, my favorite thing to talk about. This is what drives everything. This is our elementary schools, how they did in terms of EVOS growth over the last 3 years. And you can see there's a whole lot of green and a whole lot of blue, which is meeting or exceeding growth. Our middle schools. The areas that we're addressing. Our high schools. Got another busy slide for you. This one goes all the way back to 17, 18, and you can see over time how are our schools doing with their accountability growth and their school performance grade all in one place. And then this one, we've added a few more years going back to 2015. And you can see at the bottom of 2016, there was 13 schools that didn't meet growth. That was more than half. But if you look at what happens over time, 10, 6, 10, 7, 4, 5, you can see the number and percentage of schools that aren't meeting growth has declined. and the number in percent of our schools that are meeting and exceeding has improved. So now, when you look to the far right of the graph, especially in the elementary world, it's all blue and green. High school this year, all blue and green. So again, I'd like to say congratulations and thank you to all of our students, staff, and families.
Thank you very much.
Good job, Scott.
Members of the board, you now have this information. We'd like to thank Mr. Sage and staff for all of the hard work in compiling all of these graphs, tables, and charts. If you have any questions, I think he's open to answering any comments at this time. Hearing none, I do need to go back and I left one item off of my report, and that is to congratulate the members of the board on having earned the designation of 2024 Bell Award from the North Carolina School Boards Association for each member having earned training hours during the 2023-2024 school year. As you know, as board members, we are required legislatively to get board training, and I thank you for taking that responsibility on and for getting board training and receiving the Silver Bell Award.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
Board members, I would like to point out and share one thing. One, I'd like to thank Mr. Sage for his work and accountability. He is the department and staff. Yeah. He's
but he gets
it.
multiples.
And having done that in a previous life, it is extremely complicated. It is extremely critical, and he makes it look very easy, and it is not. And his expertise and willingness to do extra things to provide understanding and checks for accuracy and to assist the principals in the schools should be commended. It's above and beyond. It's not within his confines of his job, and he does it because he enjoys it. But he makes it look a little too easy. But it's important that we recognize the excellence he brings to it, because this is a big deal, and it does get checked every which way to Sunday, and it is a lot of scrutiny placed on it. It is nice to be able to do it and celebrate very high-level results and see that. And so I would like to point out one thing that Scott provided was in the third or fourth table that showed the ranking of the districts. There's something I think that's an important takeaway. You know, we were talking about moving up 0.9 and we're 3.8% away from top 20, and we're at 56.1. But I think it's important to note that the top-ranked district in the state is only at 69.8. So there's still room to be had for any district. So while people may say, what about the other percentages? Even the top district in the state is not at 100%, and we know that, and that's part of the discussion. But to put it in perspective, I think people lose perspective because that number may not sound gargantuan, but from where we've been and where we are and other factors, I think our staff and our families and our students and our principals and our community should recognize and appreciate the work that goes into it in our classrooms every day and the support that it takes, and celebrate that. It is not a simple, easy task to see a line of progress over time and continue a rate of progress at a high rate over time and sustain it. The one hiccup you see is after the pandemic and during the pandemic, which everyone was subjected to, but to come from a low-performing district and now be where we are, certainly we'll see some sawtooth up and downs. We expect that, but I would stack those results against anybody's, and I'm very proud of our folks in our district. And I just think, to put it in perspective, we're outperforming and outkicking our coverage on most everything I can see. So please tell everyone you know when you see them in the schools, thank you, they've done an amazing job. So I think it should stand for itself. I'm very, very, very proud of our folks and the work they've done. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We now come to the point of the agenda where the public is granted the opportunity to address the board. Please know that each person is granted 3 minutes for his or her presentation. This portion of the meeting is for the board to hear matters of interest from the public. However, obscene or vulgar statements, personal attacks, and statements reasonably perceived to be disruptive or imminently threatening to the orderly operation of the meeting shall not be permitted. We do have one person who has signed up to address the board this evening, Dr. Charles Bayo, regarding school policy questions.
Good evening, folks.
Good evening.
I stand before you as a citizen of Wilson County and as the chairman of the Wilson County Chapter for Moms for Liberty organization. We are a grassroots national organization. Toward the end of 2023, at the school board meeting, a board member was kind enough to state that the following books would be removed from school libraries. Mind you, not because of their content, but because of the lack of popularity. Nonetheless, we are grateful for the issue being addressed. The book titles are Forever, which is in Dardenvick Middle School, Sold, This One Summer, and Crank, which are in Fike and Hunt High School libraries, and Tricks, which is in the Fike High School library. All these books contain inappropriate material for minors. They contain material that is deemed pornographic under the state law. Once again, we are grateful for the issues being addressed. With this in mind, will the school board be kind enough to bring the Wilson County community, in particular parents of children in the Wilson County school system, up to date on which books have been removed and which books are still in libraries? Last November, in response to a letter I wrote to the school board regarding obscene library books, a school board member was kind enough to write back to me. And I quote, "Speaking only for myself, unfortunately, the law requires us to look at the entirety of the work to determine whether or not they violate North Carolina's obscenity law. The law requires that obscene material, in this case books, requires that the work not have any literary merit," end quote. With regards to the board member's explanation of North Carolina law as it pertains to obscene material in school books, if the school board would please, in great detail, explain to the Wilson County community, in particular parents of children in the Wilson County school system, the process by which the school board determines if the book in question does or does not have the literary merit. Specifically, what is the criteria used to determine if a book has literary merit? And 2, what members are responsible for determining whether the book meets the criteria? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bayo. Members of the board, what is your pleasure in regard to responding to the speaker's concern? To direct the chairman to respond to the concern on behalf of the board, to direct the administration to respond, to refer the matter to a board committee, refer the matter to the administration, or place the matter of concern on the agenda for a future meeting? What is your pleasure?
Madam Chair,
I'll-
to direct administration to respond to the concerns.
All right. Was that your concurrence, Mr. Breen, since both of you spoke simultaneously? Dr. Mills, we're going to ask if you would address the speaker's concern.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. We're now at the committee reports. Administrative Services Committee, Mr. Mercer.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
This afternoon, Administrative Services Committee met, and we had 2 information items and 4 action items. The first of the information items was contract requiring board notification, and that was with Brightly Software Incorporated, which I think provides a means for work orders and other type communications or whatever with the maintenance department. Dr. Williams, you have anything to add to that?
No, sir.
It was in the amount of $54,387.12 for 3 years, which means it would be $18,129.04 per year. I think the other board members, were there any of the board members wish to add to the comments or raise any questions? Hearing none. Let's go to the other information item, the second one, which in regards to the 2024-2025 insurance policy premium renewals. This was with Utica National Insurance and provides the liability insurance for the county, which I think is an umbrella top covering vehicles and all our liability coverages, isn't it? Anyone, board member, most if not all of the board members were present. Any questions, comments? Okay. We will move on to the action items. The first action item is a budget resolution. And for that, if you would present that for us, please. And excuse me, Ms. Collins, I wanted to make sure I introduced you. We'll present the budget resolution.
Okay, good evening, board members.
Good evening.
Tonight I'm presenting the 24-25 budget resolution. A few highlights, I want to go over a few of the highlights of the budget resolution this year. We actually have a budget resolution early this year. This is the second year of the biennium, and we actually have one before October, so that's exciting to have this in place already this year. The state public school fund is $83,890,921. And so you may ask what makes up the public school fund. There are several things, or several pots of money that make up the state public school fund. I'll give you just a couple of examples of some of the things that make up that pot of money, if you will, and that would be, we have driver's ed that comes out of that pot of money. We have salaries. We have, our teacher salaries comes out of that. Our nurses' salaries. We have also some instructional supplies and materials that comes out of that bucket of money. Just a few, we have at-risk funds that come out of that pocket of money. Just a few things, but that is just a few examples of what makes up the $83,890,921. Our current expense fund this year is $28,735,916. A few of the things that make up that a few of the highlights of that fund, and a few things that make up the funding for that is our maintenance. A lot of our maintenance expenses come out of that pot of money. And when I say our maintenance, our utilities and our supplies come out of that pot of money. We pay for services for maintenance out of that pot of money. A lot of our operational costs come out of that bucket of money. Some of our school resource officers' funding comes out of that money. Just to name a few things. There's lots of parts and pieces that come out of each one of these funds, and that's just a few of the highlights that come, few of the pieces that in this big puzzle. Our federal fund, if you notice this year, that federal dollar amount might look a little small to you, and that's because a lot of our federal funding is being spent out. A lot of our ESSER dollars have to be encumbered by the end of this month, and then have to be paid for and expended by December the 30th. So that number, in the past has been fairly large, and so this year it's $9 million. At this point in time, it's $9,570,964.75. And I would note too, that another reason that this number is fairly low at this time is because we're still in the planning. Right now, we have planning allotments for a lot of our federal funds. We're still waiting for the state to approve a lot of our planning allotments. And so once those are approved, you will see amendments to follow that will increase that fund as we go throughout the year. Our capital outlay fund this year, we have $5,108,179.57. For our capital outlay fund, we use that for our building projects. We use it to buy equipment. We use it for various needs. We use it for some of our safety projects that we have had. We will use it for fixing our elevator that we talked about earlier in one of our previous meetings. Our child nutrition fund this year is at $6,837,378.32. Our before and after school care program is at $705,175. Our local special revenue fund is at $2,669,699.49. The local special revenue fund houses our grants. It houses our special things like our healthcare foundation grant monies. It hosts a lot of our grant things and special earmarked funding that we have to spend specifically on certain things. At this time, if there are any questions, I will be glad to answer those. Another couple of things I'd like to point out too about this year's budget resolution. Our hospitalization did go up this year. It went from $7,557 to $8,095 again. Retirement went from 25.02% to 24.04%. And, those rates, they do affect our budget. So, if there's any questions, again, I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
I want to take some hospitalization. I got the 8,095 that went to, what was
Yes.
it previously?
It was 7,557. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes, sir.
I move that the Wilson County School Board approve the 2024-2025 budget resolution as presented by administration.
It's been moved and properly seconded that the board approve Wilson County, approve the 2024-25 budget resolution as recommended by administration. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. It carries unanimously.
So
Sorry we couldn't hear you for the sneeze.
that was your recommendation from the committee to the full board and your action by the full board to accept that recommendation, correct?
Well, that was, in that case, it was not a recommendation because
It is
it
It is the full.
It
because,
was, yeah, okay.
because it was, we didn't present it at the committee meeting.
Okay.
That's true.
But, nevertheless,
It's been acted on.
it's done now, I hope.
We did it.
Do we need another sneeze from
Are
attorney?
we
to
okay,
supervise?
are we okay, Ms. Cornell?
Okay. Our second action item is to facility condition assessment and deferred maintenance, planning, selection. And this is, an agreement to have our, facilities studied and recommendations made as to what our needs are. And, Dr. Williams, would you like to?
Yes, sir, sure will. Dewberry was selected to conduct our facility condition assessment and deferred maintenance planning. The deferred maintenance planning and, the condition assessment and the deferred maintenance planning was twofold. One was to provide priority list and also the assessments to the board. But secondly, to make sure we had the information that we needed to turn in our reports to DPI that we have to do every 5 years. The initial meetings had taken place with Dewberry, and the scope of work was outlined. As a result, what we present tonight were the options for how that work could be broken up and how that could be done. In our discussion in committee, the determination was that we would be moving forward with option one, which would be the full facility condition assessment, which would include the entire scope of work for all administrative buildings as well as all of our our school buildings. And this assessment would not to exceed $430,000.
Yes, sir. And I think in addition, they will allow us to put things in priority order so that, for example, so that Springfield can have its repairs made and meet a deadline next year for a 5-year report.
Yes, sir, that's correct. So the fiscal year 25-26 is when we need to have our report completed and turned in. So that will give time to be able to do the assessment of all of our administrative buildings and our schools. And they, Dewberry will list in they will prioritize which buildings to start with.
And also, as new as Watt is, we still will have that included, so it will be on the same cycle as all the other schools.
Yes, sir, absolutely. So Watt will also be a part of that facility assessment so that it is on our list for priority planning and assessment moving forward.
Any questions or comments? Madam Chair,
Mr. Mercer.
on behalf of Administrative Services Committee, I move the full board approve option one agreement with Dewberry Engineering Incorporated for facility condition assessment and deferred maintenance planning and not to exceed $430,000.
It's been moved by Mr. Mercer, seconded by Mrs. Powell, that the board approve option one with Dewberry Engineers Incorporated for the facility condition assessment and deferred maintenance planning, not to exceed $430,000. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by the sign of aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. Mr. Mercer?
Thank you. Our next action item is the Wilson County Schools and Wilson Physician Practices LLC Memorandum of Understanding. This is to continue the agreement we've had where I think, and Dr. Williams, correct me, where they provide athletic trainers that also is we're required to have present at certain athletic events.
Yes, sir.
And they provide the trainers and pay them, including their benefits. But because of an increase in their salary or bring their salary to the standard they're required to, it'll be an expectation for the schools to provide no more than $49,304.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And that's basically understanding the same with the exception of providing that money.
Yes, sir. This second amendment to this MOU will extend the MOU to August 31, 2027, so an additional 3 years to the MOU.
Yes, sir.
And outside of that would be the compensation piece is all that's different that you've stated. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
on behalf of Administrative Service Committee, I move the full board approve Wilson Physician Practice LLC Memorandum of Understanding to provide athletic trainers for Wilson County schools in an expense not to exceed $49,304 as recommended by administration.
Second.
It has been moved by Mr. Mercer, seconded by Mr. Breen, that the board approve the Wilson County Schools and Wilson Physician Practices LLC Memorandum of Understanding for the provision of athletic trainers not to exceed $49,304 and to run to August 2027. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by the sign of aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. Mr. Mercer.
Thank you. Our fourth and final action item is a request for qualifications, design, build, Bedingfield High School Culinary Arts Classroom. And this is to prepare a classroom for the culinary arts program. And it's the equivalent of creating a commercial kitchen. And so everyone was present for that. If you would like to have something you'd like to add to that, please.
Yes, sir. So with the RFQ, the request for qualifications, this is for design build for the Bedingfield High School Culinary Arts. At the August board meeting, we did bring a request for proposal or request for qualification at that particular time. Because this is one singular classroom and not an entire building or a wing of a building, we needed to consult with legal counsel to determine what the best process was. In doing so, it was determined that the best process was to do a RFQ for the design build, which means that architect and builder will partner together in this RFQ, and we will have the full team at one time with one RFQ. Just as you mentioned, Mr. Mercer, the need for an RFQ is because of the magnitude of work that goes into a project like this. Although it is one classroom, there will be mechanical, there will be HVAC, there will be plumbing, and there will be a total renovation. So it is certainly more than just moving some furniture or some items into the classroom because of the magnitude of this type of a classroom. The culinary arts program would provide in that classroom commercial equipment, commercial mixers, commercial stoves, hoods and ventilations, much like you would see, for example, in one of our cafeteria kitchens. So that would be the need for why we would need an RFQ for the design build process.
And this would include fire suppression and other such work.
Yes, ma'am. So what we would be certainly within code on what we are required to have within that classroom. Yes, ma'am.
Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
on behalf of Administrative Service Committee, I move the full board approve a request for qualification for design build of the culinary classroom at Bedingfield High School as recommended by administration.
It's been moved by Mr. Mercer, seconded by Mrs. Powell, that the full board approve the request for qualifications design build for the culinary arts classroom at Bedingfield High School, and this is for a commercial kitchen and all that entails. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by the sign of aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes my report.
Thank you.
I appreciate you doing that.
The Instructional Services Committee met this afternoon, and at that time, there were 5 informational items and the rest under action were for policy revisions as well as policy drafts. So under the information section for the contracts requiring board notification, those were for Solient, for speech therapy in terms of screening, planning, evaluation, therapy, and administration not to exceed $50,000 for the Stepping Stones Group for a mental health interventionist for Jones Elementary in the amount of $67,375, which would be from Title IV funds. For Studies Weekly to provide teacher and student online social studies resource, and for Sunbelt, for the purpose of contracting for EC teaching position in an amount not to exceed $90,000. $90,000 is the threshold limit given to the superintendent, where only the information is provided, notification is provided for us. Those were the 4 contracts under that category. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none. Next presented for information was the Wilson County Schools 2024 to 2029 Strategic Plan, which is a 5-year plan. This was done in concert with study groups being done. NC Peak facilitated focus groups, receiving feedback on strengths and opportunities. 71 stakeholders participated, and they not only looked at strengths and opportunities, but aspirations and results. As a result of that, there is a handout that you have been given, which will be made available on our website and in other places for our community, with priorities, 4 priorities listed. Successful students, priority 1, a high-quality workforce, safe, secure, and supportive environments, and community relations and partnerships being the primary focus. Each of those particular areas have desired outcomes and goals presented under them, and these will, as I say, all be presented on our system website and available in print for persons to be able to access. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, the next item on our agenda dealt with the Mission Possible Summer School, or Summer 2024 update. There were 1,277 students that were served, not including the Proficiency Summer School. Mr. Sage spoke about the Proficiency Summer School data as part of his report. The programs began June the 6th and concluded on July 25th, 2024 of this year. The information that was presented by the staff is to be commended because there was growth and proficiency attained throughout in the grades 3 through 12. 673 proficient scores were added to as a result of our Proficiency Summer School, which ended up showing the growth and contributing to the numbers who were rated as proficient after the school year ended, and as a result of the 12 days of interaction with those students. In the Read to Achieve summer for K through 3, we had 71 at kindergarten level in attendance, and they had an average gain of 5.7 in the 95% group, which was the program that was used. In grade 1, 77 were in attendance with an average gain of 13.4. In grade 2, 149 students attended with an average gain of 11.1. And in grade 3, 113 students attended and 48 demonstrated proficiency. As indicated in Mr. Sage's report, those that did not meet proficiency are placed in a combination class so that during the year they will be tested again. If they test to be proficient, They will no longer have not proficient attached to them. The students are dealing with fourth grade level work since this is a third, fourth grade combination. In fourth grade, the attendance was 51 students with an average gain of 2.6. And in math, the gain was 13.2. And in grade 5, with 55 students in attendance, the average grade gain was 7.2 in the English language arts and 14.5 in math. In grade 6, 7, and 8, which was the middle school summer scholars program, this dealt with data mastery with pre-test and post-test and included STEM activities and information. Grade 6, 43 students were in attendance with English language arts gain of 11% and a math gain of 31%. In grade 7, 48 students participated. The English language arts gain was 7% and the math gain was 24%. In grade 8, with 31 students, the English language arts gain was 1% and math gain was 25%. At the high school level, students could earn up to 2 credits to be recovered. At Beddingfield, we had 61 attendees in the first section and 88 in the second session of the program. 125 total credits were recovered. At Fike, in the first session, 46, second session, 70. We had 92 credits recovered. At Hunt, 45 attendees in the first session, 62 in the second session, with 86 total credits recovered. At Watt, we had 2 attendees in the first session, 3 in the second, with 4 credits recovered. And at WECA, we had 1 attendee in the first session and 2 attendees in the second, with 3 credits recovered. We even have summer enrichment in an adapted curriculum for our exceptional children. At K-5 at Jones, we had 14 in attendance. At Darden, we had 6 in attendance for grade level 6-8. At Fike, we had 12 grade levels with 9 students in attendance. So we had 29 students attending the summer enrichment. And we had learned that schools around us do not have a summer learning opportunity for their exceptional students, but we do provide that curriculum advancement for them. And the accelerator program, there were 75 students who attended. There were 6 areas that were being looked at under agricultural education, culinary, health sciences, carpentry, construction, public safety, and computer science and coding. The students had the opportunity, this is grades 6 through 9. In agricultural education, the opportunities for learning were at Wilson County Forestry Service, Wilson County Farm Tour, Simply Natural Creamery, and the North Carolina Poultry Education Center. In the culinary area, they got to have learning opportunities at Whirly Walk and Simply Dairy. Under the health sciences area, the learning opportunities occurred at Barton College, the Country Doctor Museum, the Post Center, and Simply Dairy, as well as Wilson Med. In carpentry and construction, learning opportunities were at 3C Store Fixtures, Construct Inc., Construction Site, Lowe's, and Stevenson Millwork. Public safety included learning opportunities at Wilson County Forensics Lab, Wilson County EMS, and the Bio Network Mobile Lab. And computer science and coding opportunities were provided by Wilson County Schools Technology. The students had an awesome time in participating in that particular area. In grades 10 through 12, we had high school internships that were available. There were 65 student interns, and in addition to having the business and partnerships with 24 businesses and having a stipend, the students were able to earn 11 high school credit hours. Our partners including Wilson County Schools Transportation, Maintenance, Technology areas, Building Blocks, Dean's Farm, Chick-fil-A, Zaxby's, Diversified, 3C Fixtures, Geckner Orthodontics, and if I mispronounced that name, I apologize. Thank you. Edwards Crane, Wilson Substance Abuse Coalition, Wilson Tobbs, Wilson County Government, Wilson Community College, Reload Drugs, Brentwood Vet, Wilson Parks and Recreation, Anita's Marketing, City of Wilson, Hubert Vesta Imagination Station, Wilson Arts, and YMCA. We always appreciate our business support and partnerships that occur not only during the summer, but also during the year. Also, as part of the Accelerator in District C, that program allows students to be able to be presented but with a problem by business or industry, and the students work to provide solutions. These students did receive some stipends. This was grade 9-12. We had 26 student interns, and our business partners were the City of Wilson, Hill Construction, and the United Way of Wilson in regards to their Meals on Wheels. We had a migrant student summer opportunity for K-5. It was available to K-8 migrant students from the district being invited to participate. 41 students were identified, 15 confirmed and participated. And the theme of the camp opportunity was weather phenomena. Students learned about weather through hands-on activities, and it culminated with a trip to Imagination Station and lunch at a local restaurant. Students had the opportunity to enjoy that to its fullest. And we have McKinney-Vento students. These are students who find themselves in situations that may present them as being homeless, but we are charged with providing opportunity to those students as well. This was open to K-5 students from all of the elementary schools who were invited to participate. 52 of our students actually attended, and the theme of the camp was Animal Kingdom. Part of the program this year was music, art, STEM activities. Each student took home a bag of books, and the culminating field trip was to It's a Zoo Life in Macclesfield. We know that opportunities for those students who are classed as McKinney-Vento oftentimes may not be participated in because their housing situations may change. But we are so happy to have been able to offer those opportunities to the students within the Wilson County Schools. Our teachers and staff work extremely hard in providing these enrichment and learning activities over the summer. And we do find that those 12 days that the students are engaged in these extracurriculars are very beneficial to their overall student performance. And we thank the teachers, staffs, and volunteers for the hard work that goes into that, and for the Instructional Services Department for being inclusive to all of the students from our system. Are there any comments or questions?
I have just one, Dr. Fitz. You named all the programs, but as I said this afternoon, I looked around at most of the HR and instructional services staff here, and I just could not sit there without commending Dr. Mills and the senior staff for hiring the personnel that they have in our instructional services and our administration as well, because they do an outstanding job. They don't get near the recognition that they need. There was someone present from every one of those scholars program, McKinney-Vento. There was someone here represent each one of those programs this afternoon, and I just would like to publicly commend you for a great, outstanding job.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Barnes. Any other comments or questions? The next items on the agenda under information were revised policies. Two of them, revised policy 7820, personnel files, and revised policy 8341, limited claim settlement. Both of these are first read policies, so will come back to us at next month's board meeting for approval. And various questions were raised and comments shared in concern with those policies that were presented. Is there anything else in addition to this that anyone would like to add? Okay. We then moved into the action items, and so, Mr. Vice Chair, I'll turn the meeting over to you for the purpose of a motion on behalf of the committee.
Yes, ma'am.
Last month, we had various, we had various policies to come before us, 8 revised policies and 2 draft policies. Those policies were policy 2127, board member technology use, policy 3220, technology in the educational program, policy 3225 slash 4312/7320, technology responsible use, policy 3225/4312/7320 student technology use and digital citizen agreement for school and/or home usage, revised policy 3610, counseling program, revised policy 4334/50, 35/73, 45, use of unmanned aircraft or drones, revised policy 4720, surveys of students, draft policy 6125F1, supervised and emergency medication permission forms, revised policy 6330, insurance for student transportation services, and revised policy 6401/9100, ethics and the purchasing function. Mr. Vice Chair, on behalf of the Instructional Services Committee, I move that those aforementioned policies be approved as a second read.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that the full board approve the policies referenced by Dr. Fitch as a second read. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. It carries unanimously. Dr. Fitch.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the,
Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, Dr. Mills?
Ms. Horson pointed out that one of those policies has regs that needs to be repealed.
In which policy?
D,
D? Okay.
before we go ahead. Ms.
Mr.
Horson
Vice-
does not miss a reg or
I-
a policy, as you well know. I cannot take
I appreciate
credit.
it. Thank you much. Mr. Vice Chair, on behalf of the Instructional Services Committee, I ask that there be a revision of, a repeal of policy that is being replaced by 3225-4312-7320 Student Technology Use and Digital Citizenship Agreement for school and/or home usage.
It's been moved properly seconded that the policy that is being,
Re-
let
Replace,
me get, that is being replaced be
repeal.
repealed. And that's, and the new policy is draft policy 3225/4312/7320F1, student technology use and digital citizenship agreement for school and/or home usage. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. It passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Horrison, for that reminder. Okay. Next on the agenda is the discussion action item for the North Carolina School Boards Association voting delegates. Members of the board, we were presented with new criteria for participating at the delegate assembly at the annual conference for the School Boards Association. And we have to, we usually just say whoever is going, and we assign them place as delegates at the voting at the delegate assembly. We now have to formally indicate to the association who is going. Registered to attend the association are Mr. Mercer, Mrs. Powell, and myself, but the board is going to need to vote to approve those persons as the delegates for Wilson County Schools. The chair will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Breen,
I move that we recommend, or that we approve Dr. Fitch, Mr. Henry Mercer, and Ms. Deborah Powell as our voting delegates for the North Carolina School Boards Association.
Second.
it has been moved and properly seconded that myself, Mr. Mercer, and Mrs. Powell be approved as the voting delegates at the North Carolina School Boards Association Annual Conference. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by the sign of aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. Mrs. Barnes?
Madam Chair and Board, I move that the Wilson County Board of Education go into closed session to consider confidential personnel matters as provided in North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11A1 and 6 and 115C-319 through 321 to consider confidential student matters as provided in North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11A1 and North Carolina General Statutes 115C-402 and the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act 20 U.S.C. 1232G, and to consult with the Board of Education Attorney and preserve the attorney-client privilege as provided in North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11A3.
Second.
It has been moved by Mrs. Barnes, seconded by Mrs. Boyette, that the Wilson County Board of Education go into closed session to consider confidential matters as provided in North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11A1 and 6 and 115C-319 through 321 to consider confidential student matters as provided in North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11A1 and North Carolina General Statutes 115C-402 and the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act 20, United States Code 1232G, and to consult with the Board of Education Attorney and preserve the attorney-client privilege as provided in North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11A3. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by the sign of aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. We are now adjourned to closed session.